Hey guys, in today's video we're going to be talking about tips for exchange and some of the things that other exchange students might not be telling you from our experiences going on exchange to Imperial College London. Today I'm joined by my friend Holly. Do you want to introduce yourself a bit?
Hi everyone, I'm Holly. I'm currently just finished my second year at the Australian National University and I was on exchange at Imperial as well at the same time, and I'm studying environmental and marine science.
Holly also has her own YouTube channel, which I'll put in the description down below, where she does some more fun things compared to my channel on just vlogs, Christmas and stuff like that, so check that out down in the description. So we've broken this video into three main segments. The first one is before going on exchange, how to choose the right university and stuff like that. Then there's also during your exchange, what to do there and get the most out of it, and then also coming back and reflecting on your exchange journey. And there'll be timestamps down in the description below in case you want to skip to certain parts of the video. So firstly, let's talk about before going on exchange. So why did you decide to go on exchange?
Well, I saw the exchange program at Orientation Week and they had lots of stalls, and just how it was advertised was an opportunity where you're still paying fees domestically as a domestic student in Australia. So why not go, and if you have the elective space in your courses, why not go experience something new?
Yeah. So pretty much generally, because if you are going to study overseas just as a normal student, you'd be paying international student fees. But because you're going on exchange, you're paying that domestic fees at your home university, which is a lot less compared to if you were to go overseas and study. So how much was it at Imperial? I think it was like £30,000.
Yeah, like 60,000 Australian dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you just studied in Australia and then went on exchange there, you'd only be paying what, $10,000 or something like that each year.
Yeah. And also if you're an Australian student, you can still get your HECS.
Yeah, the student loan, so you don't even need to pay anything at that time. So another question I guess I have is how do you choose the right exchange university? So what made you choose Imperial, and what were the things that you kind of considered?
So I considered what kind of places I want to visit during my study breaks, and I thought like somewhere in Europe would be really good for travel. I also looked at just general rankings in the programs and what courses I might want to do, and with Imperial and ANU they had an earth science specific program, so that was quite a natural choice to put in one of my selections, and I went for that and it just worked with my semester plan. Yeah,
That's good. And like, how did you organize everything in advance, like getting your visa sorted and like choosing your right subjects? Like, what was that kind of process like?
Choosing the subjects was pretty hard because I came in halfway through the year, whereas you came in at the start of the year. So for me, I had some kind of indication, but I got there and pretty much a couple of days before classes started, I was with the exchange programs and the directors in the Department of Earth Science and Engineering, just trying to figure out courses. But that worked out really well actually, and they're all really accommodating, even though it's really hard to communicate with time zones and differences. Everyone is there to support you and help you have a good experience.
And for me, like organizing my subjects was a bit more difficult because I was going for 1 year, so I had to find about 8 different subjects that all kind of matched to a course that I was doing at my home university and that they were similar enough so I could get credit for those. And that was one of the more challenging bits, but overall it was like a little bit more difficult to get those approved and like making sure I could fit in those subjects and not have any timetable clashes, and when some subjects were full, then I would have to find a backup option for those as well. And in terms of the visa, because I was staying for more than 6 months, I had to pay for the compulsory Medicare kind of health charge service in the UK, the NHS, and also the actual student visa, which was actually cost quite a bit, which was $1,100, so that's something you should consider. But for you it was...
Yeah, so I was there for 6 months of study, so I was on a short-term study visa, which should be the same for New Zealand and Australian students, and that just required having documents with a proof of study, a proof of address, and then you just get a stamp in your passport, so that was really easy to get and you didn't have to pay anything. That was good. So like if you stay for less than 6 months, it's free, but if you stay for a longer period of time, you do need to take those costs into consideration. One of the other important things that you have to organize correctly beforehand is choosing your accommodation. So for us, we both got allocated Xenia, which is one of the student halls at Imperial College London, and I've made a video on that, so you can link it somewhere here to have a look. Yeah, so the accommodation process for us was for me was a bit more straightforward. We had a lot of options to choose from, and then in the end I got allocated that one, and it was a lot cheaper than having to find my own personal accommodation just privately, because it was kind of uni
subsidized, and also you could meet a lot of friends in your student halls at that time. What was it like for you?
Yeah, so I didn't opt for private accommodation, thinking it'd be hard to find a place without being in the country beforehand. And because I came in halfway through the year, they had limited spots. So I just asked if there was a spot, and that first one that I got assigned was Xenia. Ended up being a really good location, and I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
Yeah, we kind of got lucky there. So now moving on to the next part, which is during your exchange and like how to get the most out of it and some tips that we can give you guys. So firstly, when you first got to London for exchange, how did you kind of like feel, and what were your thoughts going into it?
Well, same as you, I travelled over there alone, which was a bit daunting as first because you don't know anyone at the university or at the college accommodation. So I know in the first couple of days, like luckily I met some people in my kitchen and got introduced to their friends. So that was like definitely a perk of being in student accommodation. But walking around campus, like not having any familiar faces can be kind of scary, especially if you're not a first year student.
Yeah, that's true.
How about you?
Yeah, for me it was like similar as kind of a scary process, like first time traveling alone to a foreign country. Yeah, like it was kind of stressful with all the luggage and being very tired after a 24-hour flight, and then going straight into the halls because I didn't have a hotel booked or anything beforehand, going by myself. But you get settled in pretty quickly. Once you get everything sorted, it gets a lot easier as time goes on, but definitely in the first week or so it is very challenging, it is very rough, but you'll get out of it. And then another thing that is common to most exchange students is because they're traveling overseas is how do you actually adapt to a new country and a new city environment that you're probably not familiar with. So how did you find London compared to, let's say, Canberra or Auckland?
So London, definitely the first thing I noticed was there was a very extensive public transport system, which was something I wasn't used to, and very small things like the fact that you stand on the right side of the escalator was very much trial and error and figuring that out, and then working with the tube station, doing beforehand I had looked into transport and like student concessions and things like that. So right from the get-go, as soon as I got there, I tried to get a bank letter from the university as quick as possible to set up a bank account, which would then help and get my student ID. And yeah, so everything is like having a little bit of research beforehand, but also just launching into it as soon as you get there.
Yeah, I feel like we were kind of lucky, like going to an English-speaking country, so not everything was that different, but definitely if you're traveling to a country where the language that they speak is different to your first language, then that might be a bit more challenging. And also just those like small cultural differences, such as like staying on the right side instead of the left side in Australia, you get used to it very quickly. And also just like all those administrative things like your bank letter, your student card and all that stuff, yeah, but you get past that pretty quickly. And of course, on your exchange, you want to be having a great time. So like, what are your tips to like how to make friends when you first get to there and like have a good time in general?
So I'm naturally a bit more extroverted, so I was still really nervous when I first got there, but I remember in the first couple of days there was some kind of event in the foyer, and I just thought you just have to walk out of your room and go up to people, and even though it's halfway through the academic year, you just have to go and say hi, introduce yourself, but definitely talking to people when you're cooking is very social and very easygoing, and then you soon come to realize like everyone introduces you to each other, and then like there's lots of social activities, or it's really much just doing like putting your own effort into it, like how much you put in is how much you get out.
Yeah, I feel like for me it was a little bit easier because when I first got there everyone was new. In our student halls we all made friends pretty quickly with each other in the kitchens and just social events quickly early on, and then yeah, from there I think even though I'm a bit more introverted, as long as there's like people who are also new and like in the student hall as you, it's not that hard to make friends. But another thing you have to consider is that when you're going to a different uni, especially when you're in second or your third year, a lot of friendship groups have already been established and it's harder for you to make friends out of those. So that's something you have to consider. And did you want to like add a bit to that? Or?
Yeah, just adding to that, I think being in a first year accommodation, so at Imperial, all the halls very first year dominated, so everyone is even more eager to make friends, and I definitely found it harder in classes, especially taking second, third and fourth year classes, to really talk to them, even especially with smaller cohorts and people that had been in classes together 2-3 years. But it's just a matter of talking to people, and there's going to be some friendly people. Everyone is there to like help each other.
A lot of the time you can make friends with the other exchange students pretty easily because they're also new to the new city and new environment, new university, and they also want to have a fun time and like travel a bit as well. So generally you have a lot of common interests there and like can make friends pretty easily. Another thing that is quite important when you're going on exchange is how to travel and make the most out of your journey and experience there. So how did you organise like your travel events, like other parts of England and maybe Europe as well?
So I went to a couple places with friends that I'd met at the halls, or like going to visit people I knew in the UK, and that was very easy with train rides.
Yeah.
And there's also very cheap buses all through Europe and the UK, and also very cheap flights as well. And then I did 2 trips that were with organisations. So one of them was with the International Student House, which is in central London, and they run lots of workshops and lots of trips. So I went up to Manchester with them, and that was a 2-night stay. And then the other one was with Erasmus, which is like the European Student Network, and that's so there was exchange students from that were at King's College, all the like UCL, all through London, and we all went to Bath and Stonehenge for the day. So that was really good to meet other people from various different countries, and really easy because everything was organised for you.
Yeah, for me it was as well like meeting a lot of my friends in the student halls. It was fun to like travel to parts of Europe and also parts of the UK where we hadn't been before, because most of us were from overseas, so it's kind of fun like getting to know everyone through those social events, going to other places and traveling around and bonding with them as well. So leading on from that, one other important thing you have to consider is like how to manage your expenses, especially with all this traveling, accommodation and cost of living by yourself in a completely foreign country. So how did you kind of like manage your finances and like make sure you didn't go broke while you were kind of living on exchange?
I think in the first week when I first did like first grocery shop, just had a good look around, and there was a Sainsbury's and a Tesco next to each other. So I kind of just had a look around and kind of sorted out what I'd pretty much be eating, just because like you're studying and it's very easy to meal prep. So I knew like I was going to get like pasta, that kind of thing. And so I kind of knew what I was buying every week anyways, and that helped regulate like that portion of your budget. And then in terms of travel, which we've talked about, like actually walking, like I walked to uni one time, which took a good hour and a half because I got lost and got sidetracked looking at Buckingham Palace. But that was really good, like walking through London, and you can see so much. And it's a very efficient way to go about as well, because the tube was not the cheapest option if you're going there and back during peak hours.
Yeah, exactly. A few small tips is like where you can save money is on the tube. There's a student rail card, and which gives you like 33% off. So if like travel during off-peak times, it's a lot easier to save some money, even though it's like 80p or so. Like it really starts to add up throughout the year. And then with regards to traveling, like in that aspect, I didn't really think I was trying to save that much. As long as I was being sensible with my purchasing decisions, like plane tickets and accommodation, I wasn't going overboard, then that was a good thing, because like it's a once in a lifetime experience traveling with friends on exchange. That's definitely something worth it, and you don't want to be too stingy kind of, I guess, in that area. In terms of food, like yes, Sainsbury's and Tesco's are very close by, so you can choose like some decent foods and make sure if you cook more instead of eating out, that's an easy way to just save a lot of money while you're on exchange. Also, were there like any bank accounts or like saving apps that you kind of use to like manage your money while you're over there?
With banking, I know quite a few people had Monzo, and I signed up to Starling, and that was for the sole purpose. So when I got my bank letter, I signed up with HSBC because that was like residential address and a UK bank, and then I got a online kind of bank account, and that was just easier for traveling, which we didn't get to do because of COVID that much, but it would have been a lot easier with currency exchange rates and things like that.
So like Monzo and some of the other MasterCard card providers, they give you very competitive currency exchange rates without any conversion fees. So that's really good if you're traveling overseas to other countries that might not use the English pound, for example, Europe, where they use the euro. In those cases, it was great to have the MasterCard. I used 28 Degrees MasterCard, or Monzo as well, or Starling, I think, will also work fine because they don't have those expensive currency conversion fees. And a few other things like during your exchange journey is like how to live on your own and live independently, because you probably won't be used to it since you might have been just living at home or with a special group of friends that you might have been comfortable with during your home university or home country. So how did you kind of like manage that?
So I had been in a residential hall here in Australia, so I kind of had that experience of being in a hall, but I think being in a hall where you're cooking for yourself, that was a nice place to ground yourself, and especially there was always seemed to be someone else in the kitchen at the same time, and having dinner or cooking and talking to someone felt like you were coming home at the end of the day with class, which was a really nice thing. And even just walking back from the tube station feeling like, oh, you're walking home.
That's good. Yeah, I feel like one of the most important things you can learn before going on exchange is, especially if the halls aren't being catered, then it's probably good to learn how to cook, at least make some edible meals that aren't like don't taste that bad, so like you can have something to look forward to at the end of the day when you come home from a long day of uni or a bit of traveling. And yeah, that's good. So also another thing is, how did you balance uni and also having fun at the same time, because you're on exchange and not just focused on those academics?
So I think one of the easy ways to do that is through clubs and societies with the university, because that was really easily linked, like after class, if you stay there during the evening and doing something that you wanted to do and meeting friends as well. So I was with the Funkology Society, which is a hip hop and urban dance. And with that, like I was able to join a group and we led up to a performance and had weekly rehearsals. So that was a really nice regular thing to do and got you out on the weekends and just made sure that you like kept that part of your life as well going. Even though everyone's really busy studying and has lots of work and assignments, it seems to line up at the end of the term. So during other times, during weekends, it's really easy to get out, or just like at night time, you know, go for a wander, go for a stroll, and keep yourself going. Yeah,
I agree. Like a lot of society events are like pretty fun. Like for me, I had a lot of interest in poker, so I joined the poker society over there. And also kind of like going with friends to go to theatres and getting experiences where I couldn't get in Australia. For example, going to watch a UEFA Champions League football match, and also just like some of the performances in London that we can't even get to see at all in Australia is a good experience.
Yeah, we went to the West End and saw Wicked, which was really good, and that was also run by the student accommodation. So that's good because it's subsidised and you're paid for the student amenities fees anyways. Yeah,
exactly. Like you get a big savings out of that, and then you also get to meet a lot of your other peers who you might be living with in your student halls, which is a great thing. So now, after coming back from exchange, like how do you kind of feel, given it was kind of like cut short by COVID? Would you like still go again, or like what were your general thoughts on your experience?
I think if COVID had completely stopped, I would totally take the opportunity to go again next year, but with travel bans, don't know if that's possible, considering the latter half of my exchange was supposed to be field work and courses, and I was supposed to be going to Spain and Scotland and doing field courses and then doing European travel. So that was more of like a fun aspect that I was looking forward to but didn't quite get. But apart from that, it was quite a shock coming back, like just with COVID and being set back by your university. But reflecting on it, like I did have a lot of fun and I'm happy with like everything I did.
Yeah, it was kind of sad like having to say goodbye to everyone so quickly, but I feel you felt the same way, right? Yeah, but then like at the end of the day, you did have a great experience out there and like meet a lot of lovely people who you probably still will be friends with for a long time, so that's great. And in the future, you can always go back again if you love that country and do a bit of the traveling you might have probably missed out on.
Yeah, and we're still in contact with all our friends there, and like we've met up now, so yeah, you never know when you'll see them again.
Exactly. Also for me, like I regret probably not going out as much as I could have. I might have been a bit more focused on the academic side because I was worried that I wasn't going to pass, even though in the end I kind of turned out fine. So I probably regret not going out to as many of those theatre shows and like just getting different experiences, traveling around, seeing more of London. And but even by the time I left, there was still so many parts of London that I hadn't actually seen before, and I kind of regret probably missing out on. And it was actually only a few weeks before I left that I even got to see like the main attractions like Tower of London and stuff like that.
I probably took like the opposite stance on that and thought if I didn't have any compulsory classes I wouldn't go into uni, and then would just train out to random areas and walk around. So I definitely think that's a good tip. Or even going to borough markets and just along South Bank, and especially during the day, in terms like, I'm not telling you to miss your classes, but when people are all working or in class, like South Bank kind of empties out a little bit more, which is like nice to like get around. There might be less tourists. Yeah,
South Bank and like all the markets in London are definitely something that I should recommend going to. You probably won't see something quite like that when you're in, for example, Sydney, or even definitely not in Canberra. So like what's changed after your exchange journey? Like after you've gone, you've come back, what's different at home now, you feel?
Coming back, I think it was like a bit of a shock because it was so sudden, but it was like easing back into uni. It's a bit different because you've had like a really different experience that nobody has had the exact same experience. So when you talk about it, they might not completely get it. And I think especially going back to Canberra instead of you coming back to Sydney, it just feels like a lot of a smaller world, especially compared to London. And like maybe it's also because I'm not in first year, I feel less inclined to just go for a wander because I feel for me, like when I first came back, it was a lot different. I feel like
a part of me was like kind of left behind because I'd become so accustomed to that living lifestyle in the UK, and like all my friends there living in the same student halls and being so close with everyone. So like to wrap up this video, let's talk about some of your highlights and maybe some of the lowlights when you were traveling on exchange.
So I think some of my highlights were definitely all the people I've met and all the kind of random fun things you end up doing with them, and also just definitely the days where I was just wandering around. Like one day I just like walked straight across and just all the way up to like the British Museum library and just did like this huge walk. But that's when you see the most, and even by yourself you like just take in a lot and like observe a lot, so I think that was like really special. Lowlights, I think for me, I got there just at the end of December and had to leave about mid-March, so I didn't get very nice weather. I didn't get to travel that much, and so yeah, I think those were the worst things for me.
So to wrap up this video, did you have any like last tips that you wanted to share with everyone, and just like what general thoughts kind of are?
I think because it goes so quickly and there's so many things to take in, definitely take a camera with you, or even just have your phone out. You don't have to be on it, but take videos, take photos of random things, vlog. Nobody really minds if you're talking to yourself on the street, because looking back on that and having that footage is just like really memorable and like takes you right back to the moment. I
think I'm the person who still watches my own videos the most. Like when I'm just feeling down or something like that, I just watch my old Imperial College vlogs, and that kind of like, it gives me back those memories, like what I did there and like how fun it actually was during that time. It was great to document that and to keep a track of everything that you kind of did and had fun with. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up this video on tips for being an exchange student and what some of the things that exchange students might not tell you. And we've shared that from our experiences going on exchange to Imperial College London in the UK.
Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them below. If you like this video, make sure to like and subscribe.
And also check out Holly's channel down in the comments, where she'll do a lot more fun things on her channel about like vlogs, Christmas, and all that kind of fun jazz. As always, take care, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. Smile.
I am smiling.